Everyone, and welcome to Full-on. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me today for our Arsenal preview is my regular co-host, Drew. How you doing?
Doing well, my friend.
And joining us again as a special guest, our Harry Wilson, as we keep calling her, is Sarah from the Fulham Lilies. How are you doing, Sarah?
I'm good, thank you.
Thanks very much for giving us your time tonight to talk about this. We're obviously here to talk about the Arsenal game coming up this weekend. We also have to mention that there is a couple of other big games for some of the other teams that are representing Fulham this weekend, including a big FA Cup game for the women's team as they play Brentford away in the third round of the Cup, which is going to be good for them. So, from everyone here, we wish them all the luck in getting through to the fourth round and playing against a proper team in the fourth round. So that would be nice. Let's talk about Arsenal then. It's a big game. We got two really good results against Arsenal last season in the league, including a great win at home, one that none of us really expected, but we'll take every single day of the week. And anytime I get to see Arsenal fan TV in meltdown because of something we've done is always a positive day for me. Drew, looking at it, mate, same question we always ask. You did a really good job predicting the team sheet for the Brighton game on Thursday night. Is there any changes you're expecting from that game going into this one? Obviously, Lukic is available again after his suspension, so that'll probably be one. But what are you expecting coming in from this game?
I'm trying the psychic link to Marco, but it's not working right now. What do I think is going to happen? I think Raul will come back in. I'm hoping that if Lukic does come back in, it will be not at the expense of Berge. I'm hoping that Pereira doesn't start. I'd like to see the midfield. My ideal midfield. I'm not saying this is what they'll do, but my ideal midfield would be Berge, Iwobi, and Lukic. I think it's physically stronger. I think it's more experienced. I love ESR. I think he's a great talent, but as we have started to see, he is not an alpha, and if things aren't going well for him, he doesn't seem to be able to play his way out of it. Whereas Nelson seems to have a little bit more mental fortitude, and obviously it's going to be a big game for ESR. I imagine Silva will start him, but I would have question marks there. And in terms of the wings, I think that obviously Nelson can't play, so I think you could be looking at. I think you could be Wilson, quite possibly, and maybe Traore. But if he goes with in the middle, Lukic, Berge, and ESR, you can have Iwobi on one wing and Wilson or Traore on the other. The back line, I think, will pick itself, save for I think Tete will come back in. And I think you'll see Muniz revert to the bench and the line led by Raul. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm kind of expecting. I do wonder, and I'm just throwing this out here, because we're recording this on a Friday night, and Arsenal have got a training session on Saturday, and they've got a couple of question marks, especially at the back, with Koulafau and Gabriel. So I do wonder if Marco's waiting to see how strong they are defensively and whether he might go with Traore. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent shout in terms of what we should expect line-up wise. Obviously, we know Nelson's not available for this game. Sadly, 20 seconds earlier, he should have come off as a substitution on Thursday night, and he looks like he's done some damage to his hamstring. So we don't even know how long it's going to be until we see him again.
2 games, Silva reckons. Yeah. But he was never eligible for this one anyway, as you know.
Yeah. So hopefully that is the case because he's proven to be a real asset to the team, and I think as we keep saying, if we made him permanent in January, all of us were pretty much happy about it. Sarah, looking at this Arsenal team to come and play against us on Sunday, they're a bit of a different kettle than they were last year in the sense that they're not blowing teams away like they were last year, but they seem to be a lot more resolute, a lot more hardy in their games. They seem to be scoring an awful lot of goals from set pieces, which I don't know about you, terrifies the life out of me in the way we defend them. What are you expecting from this Arsenal team come Sunday?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, they've got this set piece guy, and he's obviously doing a great job for them. I think what was the stat I heard the other day that they've scored 22 goals from corners since the beginning of last season, 2 against Man United on Wednesday night. And if you look at the size of the team, they're a big team. So they're, I mean, Declan Rice he took the corners the other night. He's 6'2". So if you've got a Declan Rice, you expect him to be in the box for somebody to whip the ball in. But the fact is they've got so many big players in there. And I think that is one of the reasons why they're getting quite successful at their free kicks and their corners, and the fact that they've got a coach in. So yeah, I'm concerned about corners and their set pieces as well. And also I don't know whether it's through injury or through choice, but Arteta has been going with different formations, different teams this season. So similar to what you were just saying about when Marco will actually make a final decision on who he plays is dependent possibly on who's going to be fit for Arsenal and who we think will play. But whoever, I think it's probably going to be a tougher game than we had on New Year's Eve at the Cottage when we beat them, because they were starting to have a little bit of a bad run then. I think they've been beaten by West Ham before us, or they drawn with West Ham or something.
No, you're right, Sarah. They had, but West Ham basically committed daylight robbery. Arsenal could have been there all night and wouldn't have scored. But you're right. They were having a wobble when they came to us.
But I think they're a lot stronger now, and you're right. Actually, they're not necessarily blowing teams away, but yeah, they're getting those wins, which it doesn't matter if it's a 5-0 or a 1-0. It's 3 points either way. So yeah, the way we played against Spurs, the way we played last night, I'd like to see us get something from the game, possibly a draw. I'm not that confident about us winning it though.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say. I think we all know the qualities this Arsenal team have. We don't need to talk about it too much because Sky and every pundit around the world will be doing all that for us, and we're here to give attention to this Fulham squad and not necessarily the Arsenal one because, as I say, we don't need to do that. Every other channel will be doing that for us. Drew, looking at this game, do you see many weaknesses in Arsenal that our squad can actually sort of exploit? And what players do you think we could really use in this game in order to do that?
I mean, we at the Emirates last year when we stole an equaliser at the death, part of it was because Arsenal switched off. When they came to the Cottage, as Sarah's already alluded to, they were in a bit of a tailspin. It was a very strange game because that game they went 1-0 up and then didn't seem to know what to do. And I was actually sitting with a friend of mine who's an Arsenal supporter, and he was pretty convinced that if Fulham got a third, they'd get a fourth. It's very difficult to see weaknesses. I think we're going to have to accept that we're not going to have a lot of the ball. I think we're effectively probably going to have to resign ourselves to playing on the counter, which is why I was talking about maybe Traore earlier. I think a lot will depend upon how strong Arsenal are defensively because they've got a few defensive problems. But that's never the issue with Arsenal because they're going to cover up for any defensive issues they have by keeping the ball. And that's where it's going to be difficult for us because we're going to have to keep our shape. And then when we do get an opportunity to attack, I think we're going to have to attack with purpose. It's all going to be, Ash, we've covered this so many times, and Sarah, I'm sorry because you're a Fulham fan and you've probably seen it. One of our biggest gripes on this podcast is that we aren't clinical enough. And when we are on top in games, we don't make it count. And this is a game when we're not going to be on top for large periods. So those chances, when we do get them, we really do have to make them count. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough ask. It's going to be a tough ask.
Yeah, I think it is one of those things that we definitely have to go into this game probably how we looked at the Man City game, in the sense of, we know we're not going to get loads of ball. We know we have to play on the counter rather than being how Marco usually likes to be, which is the person taking, the lead and taking the control. Thursday night's game against Brighton, we had long periods of the game where we didn't see the ball. I thought we did really, really well defensively. I know we reviewed the game, and we all pretty much agree on that. Sarah, when we go into this game, we all want ESR to play because it's going to be a big game and playing against Arsenal. But would you be slightly tempted to maybe do what we did against Man City and drop him and play a bit more, like sturdy in midfield and then see how it works? Or would you think that in a game like this at home, we need to play our game and not really change it up too much?
It's a difficult one. I was thinking about this earlier because I was thinking that the sort of team that I'd like to see. And I did in the end think, based on who else was sort of available, that I actually think that ESR is probably the best choice to start the game. Hopefully he'll be up for it as well. I think he left Arsenal. It was all very amicable. Speaking to Arsenal supporters and if you listen to sort of podcasts and whatever, they completely understood his reasonings for leaving. He wasn't getting the game time. We've got a World Cup coming up in a couple of years. So if he wants to get himself in that England squad, he needs to be playing regular football. So I think, but you want to prove to your old club, don't you? You want to sort of show them what you've got. And I'm hoping that is going to be a bit of a motivation for him and he'll have a good game. He's a great player. I went to the pre-season in Portugal, and when he came on and played his first game, second half, I was blown away. I was like, wow, this is great. He's absolutely fantastic. And he's had great moments in games, but he hasn't sort of been that level throughout a game. It's very fits and starts with him. So I'm really hoping that this Arsenal game will motivate him and he'll push on a bit. But I do think that we sort of need to start with him.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And we'll see how that goes. Look, we'll end this sort of match preview how we always end these match previews, where we sort of name a player from the opposition that we all think that we should be wary of, and then someone from the Fulham team you're hoping is going to really step up and have a good game for us, and then give us a match prediction. Sarah, you are a guest, so we'll start with you like as we should do. Give us somebody from the Arsenal team that we should look out for, someone from the Fulham team you're expecting to play an important part of the game, and then give us a match prediction if you wish.
So I'm looking at William Saliba for Arsenal. Obviously, Saka and Rice sort of get most of the plaudits, but I think Saliba is a really great defender for them. But also, as we've been talking about set pieces and corners, he scored on Wednesday night from one of the corners, and he is a threat going forward from their set pieces. So yeah, I think he's the one to watch for the Arsenal team. And again, I'm going to have to go Iwobi. He's got that Arsenal connection as well. So I'm hoping that he's motivated to prove his point. But honestly, he doesn't need to be motivated because he's just playing brilliantly at the moment. I'm going to go 2-2. I'd be really happy if we got a 2-2 out of him, Desmond.
I will take a Desmond in this game for sure. Drew, how about yourself, mate?
For Fulham, I think it's actually going to be a combination. I think you've already covered the size of the Arsenal team. So I think, your Diops and your Basses and your Berges, who give us the extra height that we crave or we will need, are going to be crucial. Diop at the back, I think, especially because Arsenal are so physical and they've got this set play routine, which is, I suppose, the Premier League's equivalent to the tush push from the Philadelphia Eagles. It may be boring, but it's very effective. So yeah, I think Diop's going to need to be strong at the back, really strong. because they are going to put pressure on us with their set piece routines. In terms of actual Arsenal players, I mean, Sarah's made a really good shout. It's a really good shout. But speaking to a few of my friends who are actually Arsenal season ticket holders, and I can't believe I'm saying that out in public, they've been quite impressed with Havertz. He's not an out-and-out striker, but he really does knit things together for them. So, I mean, you've got your obvious ones like Saka, but I think yeah, Trossard might be a good shout as well. But yeah, if Havertz plays, I'll be interested to see, because he was much maligned at Chelsea, but Arsenal, they hold him in relatively high regard. So yeah, I'll go with Havertz, which is not conventional, but you know. Oh,
Have you
score
got a scoreline
predictions.
prediction?
Oh, I think Arsenal are going to score probably at least 2, maybe 3. I'll go for 3-1 Arsenal.
Yeah, it's hard to. It's one of those games that, even if I'm being super positive, it's hard to sit there and go, "We'll win this game." You know, a draw would be a great result. A 2-2, as you say, Sarah, would be amazing. Any points taken against Arsenal is always satisfactory, mainly because it just means that we haven't got to deal with Arsenal fans, and anyone who has more than one Arsenal fan who's a friend will know that they're slightly annoying when they win. So we'll live with that. For Arsenal wise, yeah, Saliba's a great shout. For me, Declan Rice is probably a player that we really need to watch out for. If we're going to have any luck in this game, we're really going to have to take control of the centre of the park. You know, and it will lead on to me when I talk about the Fulham player in a minute. But Declan Rice is one of those players now that he's just synonymous with, you know, controlling the middle of the park and sort of playing well for Arsenal, and almost everything they do does go through him. Even when he's not necessarily involved with the play, he'll be involved with like shielding players off and doing stuff. And as you say, Sarah, he took some of the corners that they've scored from so far this season. So he is proven to be quite vital for them. So you know, Declan Rice for me, for the Arsenal player to watch out for. In terms of Fulham, I say midfield's going to be really important for me. It's the 2 holding midfielders that we were likely to play with. You know, Lukic and Sanderberg. Sanderberg for me is probably the player that I think will have to have a really good game in order for us to play really well. He's been outstanding recently, and he's getting better and better and better. You know, some of us were maybe questioning what we'd spent £20 million on after the first couple of games he played for Fulham, but you know, after the last 5 or 6 games he's played for us, we all know the player that we're getting, and he's improving. He's still getting better. He's still growing in confidence, and hopefully this will be one of those games where he just proves that he's worth every single penny that we spent on him. And we'll go with that. In terms of a scoreline prediction, I sort of agree with Drew. I don't see them scoring less than 2 goals. Just because we can be sometimes frail, especially from a set piece. So I'm actually going to go 2-1 to Arsenal, but I'm hoping the game will be quite close, and we can sort of maybe do what we did last year at the Emirates and, you know, crash a party, and maybe that not be the case, but we shall see. Other than talking about this game, guys, there are a couple of things that I wanted to mention. The FA Cup game against Watford has now been announced that we will be playing on the Thursday night, which is an interesting one because they've announced that game is going to be played 2 days before the FA are even advertising that round should be played. So the game can be played for an international TV base. So the game has been moved to a Thursday night before the round's due to even be played, so international fans can watch it, regardless of what that means for the UK fan base, let alone Fulham fans who might be wanting to attend to that game. We've seen some real ridiculousness with match day prices from the club recently. So I'm hoping that they see this for what it is and realise that the only way this game is going to sell out is if that they price it reasonably. I have zero faith they will do that, but let's hope that they can, and we can give Marco what he wants, which is a loud, raucous Fulham crowd that can sometimes be there. but it won't be if the club keep doing what they are doing and the way they're approaching things. And we'll see. From now, obviously, we've already wished the women's team a good luck in the FA Cup against Brentford this weekend. Hopefully, that they can do well. I want to thank everyone who has been sort of sharing and supporting the show over the last couple of weeks. It's really appreciated. Let us know in the comments of this what your predictions are for this game. Share and like to it. I'm also going to shamelessly push the new Ful-on podcast shop on Ful-on podcast on my Shopify. Sarah is modeling one of our t-shirts for the show. She was the inspiration behind that t-shirt after putting Mr. Brown in after her episode of FFC and me. So have a look if you are following us on Blue Sky or on Twitter. In the lead up to Christmas this week, will be throwing some discounts out and some deals. So we'll go with that. Look out for those, and get in before the Christmas sale, and hopefully there'll be some nice gifts there from you guys. Other than that, thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you very much, Drew, for following me. Hopefully we'll be back with a couple more of our regular hosts for the match review. If not, we'll see. Hopefully we have a good game, and when we come to review this on Monday, Drew will all be in a happy mood. Other than that, Thanks so much. Come on, you Whites.